just looks pinky. Okay, so recording. I think we're recording. We're recording.
So you're just going to ask me questions and I'll just answer them.
Well, I'm looking for your advice. So Terri, you're back on DDPK.
Okay.
You're the only you're the only person I've repeated, and I had so many text messages from people about you, because we briefly touched off menopause the last time, and I think probably Facebook has a lot of 40 plus, 45 plus women, so they're probably all interested. And I know when I was down in your magnificent little cottage doing the course that we were on, we did talk about it briefly, because the women in the room that day were all probably that age group, and you were fabulous about it. In fact, you were the first person that I had really seen with the hair gone natural, which is stunning. I loved that you were talking about, that we look at menopause the wrong way, that really women afterwards are wiser, and instead of being like old hags and old shells with nothing left to give, it's the complete opposite. So I want to talk to you about that. I mean, because you're a herbalist and you're an author, obviously you have 2 books written as far as I know.
Yes.
And you are fabulous at the whole thing nature. I mean, you are really like a spirit of nature. There's no doubt about it. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts on, like, what are your views on menopause, actually?
Well, I think we're living under a patriarchal system, which we have done for thousands of years. And you are probably aware that there is a swing. The pendulum is swinging back towards in praise of the feminine. So it's a perfect time for women who are reclaiming their power at all ages, but particularly for women who are of a certain age, as they say in France, to reclaim our power, because we've been conditioned to thinking that women are only valuable when they're young and beautiful and fertile. Whereas actually, that's just a brief aspect of who we are as women. And we actually come into our power when we reach the menopause. And I think one of the big problems in our society is that we do not mark rites of passage. So, for example, if you look at the statistics for young men who commit suicide, they don't have any rite of passage. They're floundering. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their role is anymore, because women are becoming much more in charge of their own destiny, you might say. And but women also, they become depressed when they get to a certain age, because they feel that they're pushed out onto the rubbish heap, because there's no rite of passage to recognize that they're coming into their power and their wisdom, and they have so much to give to society, regardless of what their physical appearance is. They've become more and more beautiful. They're like a diamond that is being polished inside, because they've learned so much from life that they know that things like the material physical isn't really important, it's what's inside. And I think more women would benefit from going through a rite of passage to claim their wisdom, to claim their power, and to say to the world, I'm here, I'm not disappearing. And we've got more confidence at this age to say things that we maybe would have been frightened about saying 10, 20, 15 years ago.
I agree. It's funny when you say the word disappear, and I don't know, maybe it's an arrogance I have. I don't feel that at all myself, but I know a friend of mine said to me a few years ago when she was going through the menopause that she just felt that she had disappeared as a woman, that like men weren't looking at her anymore, she wasn't young and hot, blah, blah, blah. And again, I obviously have too much confidence or whatever, but I never really feel that. And also, I'm 56.
Well, maybe you don't rely on that type of approval.
Maybe I don't rely
for women.
Yeah, maybe exactly. And I am 56, and I've gone through the menopause without even knowing. I didn't have a single symptom, nothing. And I've had no mood swings. I've had none of the stuff. Absolutely zero. It's like as though it never happened. Now, my mother would say the same thing about herself. But I do agree with you. Women are beginning to now, like, it's a subject that men kind of cringe away from. Last week we had the beautiful Jenny Keane on talking about female orgasm, and again, it's a subject that people are kind of going, oh my God, let's not talk about that. That's a cringe factor.
Why not? I mean, it's such an important thing.
Yes, and she does it so beautifully well. I mean, she's a beautiful yoga teacher, and she's a very experienced yoga teacher. And she's given these classes online, as I was telling you about, and talking about it. So people have to start talking about this subject to get it out there. So it's not one of those subjects that Ireland, I'm sure, hid at one point, because women that had periods couldn't have sex, and women had to be churched after they had a baby because they were.
It's disgraceful.
So really,
how could you be regarded as unclean after bringing a life into the world?
How is it possible that anybody ever thought that?
I don't know.
It's hard to believe. So Terri, do you have? So I don't have specific problems. I didn't have the hot flushes. I have nothing like that. If you were to give people tips on stuff that are like 50 plus, 45 plus, what do you think they should be fortifying themselves with?
Well, first of all, herbalism is not an allopathic medicine. So you don't really, I personally wouldn't say take this for X symptom or take Y for A, B, or C, because you have to look at the person holistically. So it's mind, body, and soul. So what I will do is give a couple of remedies that would be kind of universal, and that people could start with. So hot flushes, you look at sage. Sage tea is fantastic for affecting the hypothalamus in the brain, which is responsible for body temperature. So you can balance your hypothalamus with sage tea and reduce the hot flushes. Then Agnus castus is an amazing herb for keeping progesterone and estrogen in balance. There's lots of nervine herbs such as St. John's wort, lemon balm, passiflora. They're herbs that will help reduce the anxiety and the fear of going into this new life.
Okay, so it's not available in Ireland, am I right? It's not on sale in Ireland. Am I right? They stopped.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But you can grow it. You can find it in the wild and use it.
Okay, very good.
So you can get things like evening primrose oil. You could get starflower or borage. They're all great balancing herbs. So they could be suitable for anybody, somebody with PMT, somebody who's after having a child and they want to come back into some kind of balance. So they're not specifically for menopause, they're for women, but they could be used at menopause.
Okay.
But personally, I would want to see the person. But what else you can do is you can make sure you get good sleep. One of the best things you can do is avoid dairy, because dairy is going to impact on your estrogen levels and raise them up. And that can lead to fibroids and polyps and other problems, which then it's a cascade of issues that you want to avoid. So reducing your dairy intake is really, really important. Okay. And make rituals for yourself, make a ritual where you reconnect with the divine feminine, where you maybe make a ritual around your womb. It's no longer doing the job it did earlier during your life, but now it's a chalice that's holding your wisdom. So you can, all the creative flow that was in your body when you were fertile, you can now use that creative flow to do external projects. So, life isn't over. It's an opportunity waiting to be dived into, really. That's what I think about it anyway.
Okay, and do you think there's a lack of libido?
I think there is, but I think you come through the other side. But again, it's how do you think mentally? If you feel you're just an old bag, you're not going to feel very sexy. So you need to think differently.
Yes.
I'm sure Jenny can explain that better than me in terms of body image. If you've got stretch marks, don't they tell a wonderful story about your body and how amazing it is? If your boobs are sagging, isn't that amazing that you fed your children, or that, they're not just there for feeding children, but do you see what I mean? You can view your body in a much more positive way. It's your choice. It's your choice to do it. Or you can follow what the media want you to think and think that you're past it and that you're worn out.
Okay. And Terry, I'm on nothing. I don't take any supplements at all. I mean, I eat as much green vegetables, etc. as I can. I try and be vegetarian as often as I can. But should we all be on like a baseline of stuff from like 45 on? If we're losing stuff out of our body, should we be replenishing that? Is there a baseline we should all be on?
I would definitely recommend green vegetables for the calcium, because you're not going to get calcium from dairy. That's a myth that the dairy board propagate because they want to sell more dairy products. Your best way to get your calcium is through green vegetables. So definitely a vegetarian diet. I do recommend supplementation because our soil is so depleted of minerals. And anyone, you can go online and you can check, you can take any fruit or vegetable today and compare it to the fruit and vegetable of 20 years ago, and it will be at least half in its vitamin and mineral constituency. So yeah, you don't need to take them all the time. Take vitamin D and vitamin C through the winter months just to give your immune system a boost. B vitamins are very important for mood and for a lot of processes in the body. But again, if you're eating well, you're just supplementing, you're just topping up. So some people will need to be topped up more than other people. Okay. And then again, individual bodies will absorb, like I might absorb more calcium from green vegetables than you do. You might absorb more of the B vitamins because we're all unique and we're all individual. So you've got to tweak it, you know, for yourself.
Okay.
And just find out what through practice.
The other thing, and the big thing that's come up in the last while, I suppose everybody's stuck at home, the whole hair debacle, people going around with the grey roots and all the rest of it. You obviously have gone a beautiful shade of silver, and my roots are never that obvious because my hair is nearly white anyway, so you can't see my roots. But people who are demented with their roots, and I see Sharon Griffin and Oh by Gum has a blog up this morning about her whole journey of going from, I mean, she looked like Snow White with her beautiful black hair, and now she's gone completely silver, and she's still stunning, of course, with it, but she's documenting how difficult the journey was. You know, it is a difficult journey to go, isn't it, to go somewhere?
It was difficult for me. It was difficult at first, and I was dyeing my hair more and more and more regularly because it seemed the more I dyed it, the more the roots came through. And I began to feel guilty about the chemicals going down the drain because I began to think, you know, where are they going and what effect they're having outside. So first of all, I tried hats and scarves, hoping it would grow out, but that was taking too long. And you don't feel great about yourself because obviously our hair is our crowning glory, and it's called that for a reason. In fact, they did tests in Germany, women in psychiatric institutions with depression. When they had good hair, their depression lifted and they were released much sooner. So it is difficult, but I think it's your mindset. When you make the decision and you decide that you're to hell with it, you know, it becomes easier.
Yes. Yeah, well, fair play, because your own is just the silver is gorgeous. I do think more and more people are going to do it, really. Now I think it's going to become...
I've seen more. Yeah, definitely.
And the social medias have beautiful silver-haired people up, you know, like even the likes of Maren, she's a fabulous ad for it, you know, as well. She looks amazing with her natural silver hair. But so, well, I think fair play to you. We can't go on forever about this, but I just wanted to really touch off the subject with you because so many people are interested. I want to thank you also for your soap recipe. I have soap over my shoulder here. I've made all I've made all my Christmas presents last week on a boredom day, and it was your recipe I used. I
got it from somebody else, so you know, just pass it on.
Yeah, and the awful thing was I had the video, like it was a very basic, I just videoed it slightly and put it up on Facebook, and then some like soap goddess from America Facebooked me, who's obviously on my Facebook, who's been making soap for 20 years. I was slightly mortified because I was thinking that, oh my God, just after seeing how I made mine, you know, but anyway, she's beautiful recipes, which actually I'll pass on to you, Terri.
Great.
Magnificent recipes as well. But it's so therapeutic actually to make it.
I love it.
Well, in the kitchen, it's just magnificent.
Yeah. But then when you use it as well, it's so creamy and moisturizing, and you feel you're doing something good for yourself, which is the whole thing about the menopause ritual of loving yourself, loving your body. you know, we don't want to be a blank canvas forever. We want to show that we've lived a life and we have a story to tell. And that, I think, is what needs to be recognized again in society, that we have something to say. We have a story to tell. We've wisdom to pass on. And I don't think we'd be in this predicament if women had had more say in public.
I agree. I was watching a fascinating doctor the other night on the TV. He is from Georgia, and his name was Sharon something or other. Sharon was his first name. And he was talking about the double X chromosome that the women have, and this why more men have died of COVID, because they have only one of this X.
But they're mutants. They're mutants.
And it was fascinating to listen to him talking about how more men have died because the women are stronger, because this one of the, I won't go, I mean, the details are above my head really, but one was, it was just to listen to him talking about how the chromosomes have affected the women. It was showing them nearly as a, I don't mean as a stronger sex, but just showing how that they survived it better, you know. So I do agree with you entirely. I think maybe we need more strong women, the Jacinda Aherns and those kind of women in the world. Less ego.
We don't want women who are
trying to be men,
behaving like men.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a blog about this for International Women's Day. It seemed that every woman that was being celebrated was because she was in the man's world.
Yes.
Which means she's not acting like a woman. She's competing with men in their game.
Yeah.
We need more women who are standing up as women.
Yes, I totally agree.
That hasn't arrived yet, but hopefully it's on its way shortly.
Jacinda, I think halfway there. Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. She's very feminine.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah. And like that, you don't feel she's trying to be a man. I mean, it's the ego is the problem, isn't it? It's the big swinging egos of when you see Trump on TV and the whole speak, the way he acts.
Oh,
you know, we don't need it any longer in our world. We need a different attitude in our world, really, going forward.
Well, look at Iceland now. I think they have a female prime minister as well who breastfeeds in Parliament, and I think half of the cabinet are young women in their mid to late 30s. So they're doing a lot better since 2007 than any other country in terms of their social development. I don't know what they're like economically, but certainly socially, they've advanced a huge amount since the last recession. You know, when they told the banks where to go.
Well, then we need to be encouraging our daughters and our granddaughters to, you know, have a voice that they're proud of, stand up and be listened to.
Absolutely do. We have to encourage our sons as well to be more respectful and to listen, because I have friends who have sons and they're wonderful boys, but you know, you have to change the way you bring up the boys, because nothing's going to change unless both boys and girls are taught a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand the arguments where men are given out that women are getting positions just because they need to have a gender balance. I agree with men that women shouldn't get a seat anywhere just because they have a vagina. I think what we need to do is the women need to be carefully chosen and put them, you know, we do definitely need more women in all of our governments, on all of our boards. Yeah. You know, when you look at the
but I think those women that are there now, particularly in politics, they could be changing legislation, because somebody mentioned that this attempt by the government of Ireland to get more women into politics isn't really working. And somebody commented, well, there's no creche in the Dáil, there's no consideration of women with children. Yeah. So if they just address things like that, maybe there would be more women in politics. And the ones who can do it are the women who are there now, but they're too busy acting like the men.
Yeah. Well, that's a good message. Terri, listen, thank you very much. It was a pleasure, absolutely. And if anybody wants to see you on Facebook, or you're on Facebook and buy your books, which are
I have a website, Danu's Irish Herb Garden.
Just spell that, D-A-N-U, Danu's
Irish Herb Garden.
Perfect.
It's the same on Facebook and YouTube, everywhere. Danu's Irish Herb Garden.
Perfect. And listen, well done on all your fabulous work. And I'm envious of where you're living on the corner of the Atlantic Ocean in the most perfect little cottage. I'm totally jealous. It's beautiful.
I'm so grateful for
You're in the perfect place. Thank you, Terri. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.